Norway are through to the round of 16 of the 2026 World Cup, and Erling Haaland has delivered the goal that ended Côte d'Ivoire's tournament dream. Welcome to FairPlay Football AI Review. This was a round of 32 elimination match at the AT&T Stadium in Dallas, with everything on the line for both nations. Côte d'Ivoire had navigated their group with 6 points, but were now facing a Norwegian side built around one of the most devastating strikers the world has ever seen. There was no safety net here. One team was going home. Immerse Faye came into this game knowing his Elephants had beaten Curaçao and Ecuador in the group stage, but had shown vulnerability against Germany. The pressure was immense for an African champion whose golden generation, led by players like Franck Kessié and Nicolas Pepe, was desperate for a deep World Cup run before time caught up with them. Faye set his side up in a 4-1-4-1, with Ibrahim Sangaré anchoring deep in front of the back four, tasked specifically with protecting the channels that Norway loved to exploit on the counter. Nicolas Pepe and Jan Diomande operated as the wide midfield outlets, while Ange-Joan Bani led the line alone, asked to hold the ball and link play in the searing Texas heat. Ståle Solbakken responded with Norway's trusted 4-3-3, with Erling Haaland as the lone striker flanked by Antonio Nusa and Alexander Sørloth. Sander Berg and Patrick Berg provided the midfield muscle behind Martin Ødegaard, who was given license to roam and pick passes in the half spaces. The width on both sides was designed to stretch Côte d'Ivoire's disciplined defensive block. The tactical battle was fascinating from the first whistle. Norway's 4-3-3 generated vertical speed through Nusa on the left, who consistently found pockets of space between Côte d'Ivoire's right back and right midfielder. Solbakken had identified that channel as the primary weakness in Faye's shape, and Nusa exploited it throughout the opening period with a directness and confidence that suggested Norway had done their homework meticulously. Côte d'Ivoire were the better side in terms of half chances during the opening 30 minutes, with Pepe testing Norway's defensive organization from wide areas, and Sangaré winning the ball back efficiently in central areas. But the Elephants lacked a cutting edge through the middle, and Bani was too isolated to offer the target Faye needed from his lone forward. Then came the moment that changed the first half completely. In the 39th minute, Martin Ødegaard threaded a precise pass into the left side of Côte d'Ivoire's penalty box, finding Nusa with just enough space. The Club Brugge winger took on Pepe with a pair of sharp feints, opened up his body, and curled a magnificent right-footed effort around Yahia Fofana and into the top right-hand corner. It was the kind of goal that requires both technical brilliance and nerves of steel, and Nusa delivered both. That assist was also Ødegaard's third in consecutive World Cup matches, making him the first player to achieve that feat since Dirk Kuyt at the 2010 tournament. Ivory Coast had threatened before the goal through a couple of diagonal deliveries into the box, but none were converted to a genuine shot on target of note. The statistical reality of the first half was that Côte d'Ivoire were generating volume without precision. Their 14 total shots across the match came heavily weighted towards off-target efforts, while Norway were more clinical in turning possession into meaningful opportunities. Nusa's yellow card in first half added time, shown by referee Jesus Valenzuela for a cynical foul, underlined just how much of a threat he had been. The booking was the price of desperation from a defender trying to stop him. It also served as a reminder of the fine margins Norway were navigating. Another yellow would have reduced them to 10 men at a crucial juncture. At halftime, Norway led 1-0 and the weight of history was pressing down on Côte d'Ivoire. Faye needed his side to find the same directness that Nusa had shown going the other way. A goal was achievable, but the system needed to open up, which also meant accepting more risk at the back. The first half had been competitive, but Côte d'Ivoire had ultimately been punished for a moment of individual brilliance they could not have predicted. Norway came out after the break content to defend their lead and hit on the transition. And for 20 minutes the Elephants dominated territory without truly threatening Ørjan Nyland. Haaland had just 10 passes across the entire match, his lowest touch count of any Norwegian starter, but he remained the ever-present threat that occupied Ivory Coast's central defenders, creating space that Norway were patient enough to wait for. In the 67th minute, a genuine drama unfolded at the other end. Torbjørn Hegem arrived at the back post from a Norway corner and had a point-blank headed attempt that seemed destined to double Norway's lead. But Amad Diallo, who had entered the game as a substitute just 7 minutes earlier, cleared it off the goal line. That intervention kept the tie alive and proved to be one of the most significant moments of the entire match. Faye acted at the hour mark with a double substitution that changed the complexion of the game. Amad Diallo replaced Christinau Ulai and Elyawahi came on for Angje Yohan Bani, injecting pace and directness into an Ivory Coast attack that had been too static. Both arrivals brought energy the first 11 had been unable to sustain in the blistering Dallas heat, and the impact was almost immediate. The equalizer arrived in the 74th minute, and it was a beautiful team goal. Amad Diallo played a sharp 1-2 with Nicolas Pepe on the edge of the box, darted beyond his marker, and fired a composed left-footed finish past Nyland from close range. It was a goal that showcased everything about the substitute's electric ability: speed of thought, technical quality, and no hesitation when the moment came. Pepe's contribution was just as vital, the experienced winger reading the movement instantly and returning the ball with perfect weight. Solbakken had made his own changes at 71 minutes, withdrawing Sørloth and Nusa, who had been extraordinary but was perhaps feeling the effects of the yellow card, to introduce Oscar Bob and Andreas Schjelderup. The double change was designed to protect the midfield and add fresh legs in the wide areas, and it showed a manager thinking about the next 15 minutes rather than simply protecting what he had. Fredrik Arsnes came on for Marcus Pedersen at 83 minutes, Norway's third substitution, consolidating the right side and adding experience in the middle of the park. It was a pragmatic piece of management that stabilized Norway at a point when Côte d'Ivoire were pressing with genuine urgency and belief. Then came the decisive moment of the match. In the 86th minute, 3 Ivory Coast defenders converged on Patrick Berg as he entered the penalty area. Rather than being dispossessed, Berg simply slid the ball sideways to the one man his opponents had left completely unmarked, Erling Haaland, standing alone 6 yards out. It was not a spectacular finish. Haaland barely needed to do anything more than direct the ball across the line, but that is the mark of a truly intelligent forward. Finding space when the game demands it most is the rarest skill in football, and Haaland demonstrated it perfectly. It was his 5th goal of this World Cup and his 60th for Norway all time. Amad Diallo gave the scoreline a moment of genuine tension in the 6th minute of added time, unleashing a sublime free kick from 25 yards that Nyland got down quickly to palm away. Had that gone in, Dallas would have witnessed one of the great late equalizers of recent World Cup history. Norway held on, but that final moment was a reminder of how close Côte d'Ivoire came to forcing extra time. Looking at the statistics, Norway edged possession at 53 to 47% and completed 473 passes at 88% accuracy, compared to Côte d'Ivoire's 401 passes at 85%. What is striking, however, is that despite controlling the ball slightly less, Côte d'Ivoire attacked with considerably more volume. 116 attacks to Norway's 59 reveals how much more measured and structured Norway were in how they used their possession. Côte d'Ivoire generated 14 total shots compared to Norway's 9, but the clinical difference told the real story. Norway had an expected goals figure of 1.95 against Côte d'Ivoire's 1.83 SAR, remarkably close, yet it was the moments of individual quality that separated them. Nyland made 4 saves and was rarely truly tested until the late free kick from Diallo. Ivory Coast created volume but struggled to convert clear opportunities into clean shots on target at the critical moments. Defensively, Norway were disciplined and organized when it mattered most. Sander Berg was immense in the middle, making 4 tackles and providing the platform for Ødegaard to operate freely in the half spaces. Ayer and David Müller-Wolf were solid throughout at center-back, and the back 4 collectively produced 19 tackles. Ivory Coast's defensive effort was equally committed, with 24 tackles overall, but they were undone by their inability to stop Norway's most dangerous moments at precisely the right times. Ibrahim Sangaré was Côte d'Ivoire's standout performer on the night, completing a remarkable 152 passes and winning 6 tackles, numbers that underline his absolute dominance in the midfield battle. He was Faye's engine, his shield, and his metronome, and it is difficult to imagine how heavily Ivory Coast would have conceded without his relentless presence. He was one of the best individuals on the pitch in a losing cause. Norway's standout performer was not Haaland but Martin Ødegaard, and that is no slight on either man. The Arsenal captain operated in the spaces between the lines with exceptional intelligence, completing 66 passes, assisting the opening goal, and providing the tactical problem that Ivory Coast simply never solved. His movement was coordinated, his vision precise, and his reading of Norway's attacking transitions was first-class throughout. In terms of players who underperformed, Antoine Bonny struggled to make an impact as the lone striker in the 4-1-4-1, recording 0 shots in his 60 minutes on the pitch. The system asked him to hold the ball and link play in conditions approaching 35 degrees, but he was too often isolated and bypassed. His replacement by Wahi was the correct decision and came at the right time. Faye perhaps could have been more decisive sooner. Tactically, both managers produced solid work. Faye's double substitution at 60 minutes was decisive in generating the equalizer, and the system he built gave Ivory Coast a genuine chance. But Solbaken's patience, never chasing the game when threatened, trusting the structure, making efficient changes, was the difference. The switch to Bob and Schjelderup at 71 minutes kept Norway fresh while managing the risk of Noosa's yellow card, and Haaland's late positioning in the build-up to the winner was arguably the product of coaching rather than just instinct. There is limited head-to-head history between these two nations at major tournaments, and today's match stands as the defining encounter of the fixture. Norway winning this match also means they have achieved something the entire nation has been waiting decades for: their first-ever victory in a World Cup knockout match. That context cannot be overstated for a football culture that has waited since their last World Cup appearance in 1998. Côte d'Ivoire had been in outstanding form heading into this tournament, winning 5 of their last 10 matches including the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations, and producing a group stage campaign that had seen them beat Curaçao and Ecuador convincingly. But the loss to Germany in their group matched a pattern of inconsistency against elite European opposition that has persisted across multiple major tournaments for the Elephants. Norway's recent form told a different story: 4 wins in 5 games before this tournament began, including stunning victories over Italy and a high-scoring demolition of Moldova in qualification. Their one blip, a 4-1 defeat to France in the group stage, suggested vulnerability against the very best, but against African opposition with a similar level of quality to Ivory Coast, Norway proved again that Haaland's presence makes them genuinely dangerous, regardless of context. With this result, Côte d'Ivoire are eliminated from the 2026 World Cup, a painful end for Immerse Faye's side who had worked so hard to reach this stage. Their 6 points in the group placed them second, and they led this match at 1-1 with 16 minutes to go. Football can be ruthless, and this was one of those evenings where quality and timing combined to deny a talented African side a historic achievement. Norway now advanced to face Brazil in the last 16, a match that will test everything Solbakken has built. Brazil are one of the tournament favorites, and with Vinicius Jr. in stunning form, Norway's defensive structure will face a challenge of an entirely different order. But this victory, earned with composure and clinical finishing in Texas heat, will have given the entire squad the belief that they belong at this level. Norway go through, Ivory Coast go home, and the world now knows that Ståle Solbakken's Norway are not simply a one-man team built around Haaland. They are a coherent, tactically intelligent group, capable of winning when it matters most. This was not just a result. For Norway, it was a statement. The round of 32 continues, and next up on FairPlay, we have more World Cup eliminator analysis coming your way. Stay with us. That's the FairPlay verdict on this one. If you want more analysis like this, follow us, Find us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at FairPlay AI, and follow Anthony personally on X at Anthony Fairplay. See you next match.